Hello everybody and a warm welcome back to the channel. Apologies, I am sick as a dog. Getting my apartment back together has taken way longer.
Today you will drive passenger train 46.
I am doing this video a little different. I recorded this footage earlier. This is a brand new train simulator. I had my eyes on it for the last couple of years. It was in early access. And this is Simrail. It is a Polish train simulator. I'm going to turn down the sound. I'm doing a separate voiceover because trying to actually record and drive this sim is not easy. You have the, this is just a tutorial. I still blew it. Don't go by this. This has all been trying to do tutorials. This is a hard sim. This is a train driver sim.
Ground relays.
One of the difficulties I'm having is it has very limited, if at all, controller support. And I'm used to driving train simulators with the controller. Hopefully it does have some, but like there's no real guide as to what,
activate the cabin.
You know, what left bumper does, right bumper, like
the cabin.
It's kind of trial and error. So this was in early access. It came out of early access right when my suite was getting done.
Rise the pantograph.
And take a look at these graphics and wait till you hear the sounds. Like when you go over the points and everything, it sounds so good. Keep in mind my computer specs. I don't have the best video card in the world. If I had a 3090 or a 4070, it would be even higher, like freakishly realistic looking. It does support DLSS. It also supports AMD FSR. I do not know if it supports Intel's XESS or not. I don't know if it supports ray tracing. I highly doubt it. This is built in Unity. Look at the inside of this freaking cab, man. Like, this is a blast to the past. It is so awesome. And the sounds in this sim are off the charts. Now, if you're doing a regular drive, you're not going to have this guy talking to you all the time. And your switches are not going to be lit up. You got to memorize all this, just like a real train driver would. First, let's get to this thing here, having to go back and forth. They need to come up with a hotkey. Like, if you can press 1 to go to the front cabin, you should be able to press, like, Control 1 and go to the back cabin. Do what you need to do here, then go back to the first one. The whole walking thing along, it's realistic. It is what they would do in real life. I realize that. But for the sake of, you know, and this has over close to, what, 500 kilometers or something of tracks in various regions in Poland. You'll see some of them at the end of the video.
To sit on the driver's seat.
So I'm going to let you just listen to some of the sounds and you can take a look at the outside. There's no mods. Like, look at the bushes are all moving. They don't look like stick figures. And I actually, while doing this, had pictures up in looking at Google Earth. And my God, is this realistic? That is the freaking AWS for those who are used to like driving in or SIFA. AWS if you're in the UK, SIFA if you're in Germany. It goes off way too often. And there's no audible sound when it does. Unless it's like getting to the point where you have 2 seconds to answer this buzzer. or I'm cutting the power and throwing the emergency brakes on. So there's still some stuff that is a bit rough around the edges. But look at the station detail. When you're doing a normal route, like just a normal
briefly move the brake lever
drive, not a tutorial like this, he's obviously not talking and everything else like that.
The valve does not return to the EP
And
automatically.
of course, there's platform announcements and all that kind of stuff. What they've managed to accomplish, because this team is quite small, you can tell this is a labor of love and passion. They're based in Poland, and this is a Polish railway. In the future, I hope they get other routes like in Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, Austria, things like that. But just graphically, sound-wise, you listen to this going over, you know, the points, the intersections, if you will, of the tracks in that. They are spot on. It is freakishly good. And if you've got your headphones on in that, it sounds spectacular. The locomotive sounds spectacular. The clicking of the compressor is all modeled and everything. Look at the detail in the buildings. Like I said, I'm only at 1080p. I've seen footage of this in 4K using a 3090 with a 10900K overclocked to like 5.5 gigahertz. And this thing is unreal believable. Unlike a lot of what we see with some of the other train sims.
To drive, move the drive handle to the chosen position.
The sky is dynamic.
Through the resistors and
it changes over time. And some of the routes on here, this whole thing, this is 1-to-1 scale. It's not like in like Train Sim World or Train Sim Classic. If you're doing a 300 nautical mile route, like a journey, it is going to take you over 3 hours to drive it in real time. Nothing is sped up. This is 1-to-1. And just look at the work with the wires and the gantries and everything. It is off the charts. The reflections, you see the pillars, you know, causing shadows inside every time we go past one of the gantries. The attention to detail is freaky. Now, the lights don't normally look like that. I have them turned up because they're so hard to see. So I've got them showing up like, you know, clown noses. Because otherwise I won't see them. But you can just feel the steel wheel on steel rail. Like, you just feel the sort of the grindy, gritty sound. It's phenomenal. And again, you know, with a better video card, we wouldn't have some of the micro stuttering I'm getting. I did turn up the settings a little bit to make it look a tad prettier. There are things I have noticed about this sim that I don't see in any other sim, even though in some cases they've been promised. This has multiplayer. Full-on, functional, dedicated server multiplayer. And what is phenomenal about the multiplayer is you can not only be a driver, you can be the person controlling these switches and be a dispatcher. and you'll be the one, the other, you know, on the other side of the radio. And you can do it via voice and text, is my understanding. During tutorials, there is no AI traffic. This sim uses AI quite a bit. If there is no dispatch, these things go off way too often, in my humble opinion. If there is no dispatcher, then AI controls the switch house and all that. Yeah, like this you wouldn't see normally. I've got them blown up so they show up like 300 times bigger or whatever than normal. 3 times normal size.
Make motors shut off. Decrease force of EP braking. Wait for a main.
But just look at the vegetation, the way it's done, the way the tracks are done. Don't forget AMD does anti-aliasing really bad. The other thing with multiplayer, my understanding, it uses real-time live weather. And depending on what server you choose, the way the sim looks, it will look based on the server you're connected to. So if you're connected to a North American server and it's like middle of the afternoon in Poland, it's going to look sort of dark with the sun rising in Poland. So I'm not sure how all that works. I haven't gone into multiplayer yet. But my understanding is it does live weather, live time, which is unheard of. Dovetail promised multiplayer like 10 years ago. Still haven't heard a word. Live weather, they won't even touch you. So, like, good luck with that. Now, is this sim perfect? No. They have to get proper controller support. I mean, full on, you can drive it simply with the controller. Right now, mouse and keyboard is what you're going to use. In some ways, I can understand that, and even in like Train Sim World, I use a combination of the controller for braking, opening the doors, closing the doors, you know, power, brake. And then for other things, I do use a mouse or a keyboard to perform certain functions like changing the headlights and such like that. I do use the mouse and keyboard in Train Sim World and Train Sim Classic for doing that. The same as for the horn and things like that. Listen to this.
Decrease force of EP braking.
Do you hear that thud kind of sound?
Acknowledge village and system.
Like when you're going over the points, which are these
EP
things
braking.
here, and the welds in that, it's uncannily good. Other things I would like to see, I want to see live weather in the single player. I don't do multiplayer. Really, especially not in a train sim. I mentioned that it was like, seems like a decade ago, you know, Dovetail was talking about multiplayer in train sim. I don't want it for myself. I want it for others that would use it. You know, there's multiplayer in Truck Sim, in American Truck Simulator. You can do multiplayer, same as Euro Truck. I don't use it, but I'm glad it's there for those who do want to use it. The stations look awesome. The scenery is spectacular. You can see the sort of granularity to everything. It's how they did this in Unity, I don't know. I mean, because this is not a huge team. Dovetail adds over 110 developers
Decrease force
that
of
create
EP
Train
braking.
Sim World.
To drive,
And
move
also
the
work
drive
on
handle
Train
to the
Sim
chosen position.
Classic.
The vehicle will be automatically
This team is
switching
nowhere
between
near
the
that
sisters
size.
and
And if
chosen
you're at
positions.
Livesey Station and you go on Google Earth, you will see this.
Acknowledge village
It's
system.
freakishly one-to-one. However, there is a downside to that. There is no save function. They've got to get that in, and I mean ASAP. I couldn't save this and say, you know what, I'm going to finish this run tomorrow morning. I'm a little tired, I want to go to bed. You can't. If you start a 3-hour, scenario, you're driving for 3 hours, whether you like it or not, or you're starting at the beginning, or you can hit the escape key, which pauses the sim, but you're going to have to leave your computer on overnight and pray Windows doesn't do some crazy update. Like, just look at how realistic that forest looks, even off in the distance.
Acknowledge village and system.
Another thing I would criticize them for, when they were in early access, I know why they did it. They're a small team, they needed the money. That is the aliasing, it's an AMD thing. They were in early access, yet they released a DLC. That is a huge no-no. You don't release paid content when you're in early access. But I understand why they did it. I have it because I love doing cargo scenarios. I love driving freight. And there are some great old, like we're talking Soviet era locomotives and that they have with the cargo pack and loads. There's one section, there's one map which you're in the heart of coal country and grain country in Poland. And so you've got, these beautifully detailed hoppers. The suspension and physics of this sim are spot on, as you're going to see. It's like, I barely made it to stop at this station.
You can stop now.
Like, I really, you feel the weight.
Open the doors using the switch.
But, I mean, this is just absolutely phenomenal. The way it looks, the way it sounds, the way it feels. We now have a steam engine in here,
use the buzzer.
which is just off the charts gorgeous. And you have a functioning fireman,
To drive,
who stokes the coal into the boiler. He screams at you in Polish. I have no idea what he's saying. I'm told, I have a Polish neighbor, I'm told he's telling you signals green, speed this. Like, look at the wear and tear. Like, you can tell this has been through the trenches.
To close them afterwards.
The old school pentagraphs, the scissor type. Into the forest. No pop in, no nothing. It is unbelievable. And winter in this looks wow. Just wow. I was watching a video of somebody driving a steam train.
Knowledge Vigilance System.
in winter. It was like just gobsmackingly beautiful. And the snow was blowing across the tracks and the trees were swaying because it was kind of breezy and that. It was just, oh, mwah. You know, I saw that bridge like 3/4 of a kilometer away. I can still see the overheads way down there. And look at the performance.
Decrease force of EP
with this level of vegetation detail, the variance, the track detail. The other thing they've managed to do, I was on a route messing around very poorly, kind of like this stop.
You can stop.
When you go into a tunnel,
Open the doors using the switch.
your headlights light up the whole inside of it. In 10 years, Dovetail hasn't figured out how to do that. Train Z never figured out how to do it. It's been a while since I did A-Train. I'm not sure if they have. But look at this. It's spectacular. I mean, I'm speechless. Considering it's such a small team.
Close the doors using the switch.
You know, but like I said, there are some issues. They need to come up with smaller scenarios. The vigilance system goes off way too often.
Automatically switching through the resistors and shunting positions.
See, like I'm in the same platform and it's gone off twice. So that needs to be addressed. I mean, the fact it supports dispatching and a multiplayer with live weather, this has dynamic weather. Yeah, I mean, it's doing that because I'm in outside view. This sim does not like you being in outside view. It wants you driving. From a sheer driving point of view, this sim is just awesome. I love it. This is a trained driver's sim. It just makes it rather difficult without full controller support. And the documentation as to, okay, what does left D-pad do? Like, I don't know. And sometimes if you do it, going, well, why don't I just do it while I'm driving and see? You can end up getting your train in all kinds of messed up thing, and then you're going to have to restart it. And it's like, if it's an hour-and-a-half long scenario, now I've got to go all the way to the back because I had to experiment. Yes, there are cars. Not as many as I would like, but I mean, I don't know what the traffic would be like around here.
Increase force of EP braking.
But all in all, I am really happy. I got a Steam gift card because I was at a Christmas party because I kept wanting to get out of my freaking apartment with having the renovations done. Boy, did I ever mess this stuff up. Like, people in the third car are now in the first car with a braking job like that. And I got a Steam gift card, and I could have bought any game I wanted, anything, and I bought this. I could have got Train Sim World 5, and all my routes would have carried over and all that stuff.
Before closing the
but
door,
I put my money where my mouth is. I don't support Dovetail. I don't like them as a developer. This developer, you saw the opening, Loads is coming out. This sim has been available that you could do playtests and alphas in that and early access for almost 3 years. And in all that time, they released one DLC, the cargo pack. That's it. Now, they need to open this sim up to be at the Steam Community Workshop, or allow access so that people like Just Trains and Alan Thompson, Aerosoft, and people like that make things, can make stuff for this. Additional routes in different parts of the world. Scenario packs based on the routes that are in here. You know, things like that. Because this team is not that big, they're not going to be able to create all of this on their own. And I bought the cargo pack because I want to support this team. I like what they're doing. This sim requires you to concentrate. Like, look at the smoke coming out of that. Like, it doesn't look like a cartoon character from the 60s. It's just, I love the sound going over these junctions, man. I absolutely love it. So this is like, I didn't do all that great on this. I took off once with the door open. You know, some things never change. But I hope you enjoyed this. Sadly, there's not a demo for this. And if you don't like using mouse and keyboard, which I don't because of having my stroke, they'll continue working on it. They do release updates all the time and bug fixes and enhancements. But this is the kind of sim I freaking have been wanting. One where, like, I can get this kind of graphic fidelity with that kind of realism in the forests and vegetations and the weather affecting it all. Here I'll show you some stuff. They got to fix the vigilance system. They need full controller support. They need to come up with bite-sized scenario sizes. And of course they need to also come up with a save function. So here you go. You can see the different servers. Every 4 or 6 hours they reset the servers, so people aren't stuck on tracks and stuff like that. And of course there's one in Asia. It supports different languages. Look at that imagery. And then of course you've got the depot. I show you the Steam engine here. And remember, my graphic details are not up on very high. So PKP Cargo, that is the Polish Transit Authority, PKP. And there is the tie to. This thing is a thing of beauty. Get this outdoors in the sunshine and that, and all that metal kind of thing all shines. The attention to detail is spectacular. It's really pretty. And that's where your fireman sits, over there on that stool. And the other thing is that if you brake too hard, the tinder in the back, the water, when you come to a stop, will be sloshing around and coming out over the sides. So that's going to do it, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you soon.